knows what was used in the wheat to make that bread?
Exactly. So that's a very good point. Another thing they use for genetically modified foods are pest resistance. And when we talk about pest resistance, they mean like pesticides. So they'll spray a whole field with wheat, but that wheat is pesticide resistant. So does that concern you? Are you okay with that?
Definitely. I mean, something that kills other organisms in my food doesn't make me necessarily too excited about eating that food.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Now, another point they use genetically modified organisms is for drought resistance. And California's in a 3-year drought. Does that change what ways you use to
I don't know much about it, but I mean, it helps during a drought. You have something in food that you have to eat. So
drought resistance would be like it needs less water to grow, or it needs less food to grow. So that would be kind of drought resistance.
I mean, I don't know much about it. That sounds good. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. My name is Ryan. So, genetically modified foods. Are you familiar with them? Have you ever heard of them?
Yes.
Okay, so what are your opinions on those?
I think that the foods themselves, if they're genetically engineered, then they're not dangerous. But it's more of what the company does and more of like the property rights and like all of the what the farmers have to deal with is bad. But like the food itself isn't good.
So you're talking about like recently, have you heard of the company Monsanto GM?
That's exactly, yeah.
Monsanto GM will take little farming guys, Joe Schmo out in Texas, and legally harass him into using their crop. So that's kind of what you're talking about. Is you don't like that aspect.
Yeah, like I have a problem with Monsanto, but I don't have a problem with GMOs.
GMOs. Okay,
yeah.
So you just have an issue with the company. Okay, that's good to know. So then generally one of the issues that most people have with GMOs is pest resistance. This is usually always one of the big issues, because if a plant's pest resistant, then what they're going to do is they're going to spray the whole field. And that's going to kill all the weeds, but leave the pesticide on the wheat because the wheat is pest resistant. So does that concern you at all, or still leave the big brand companies?
So that weeds are developing pesticide resistance because they're getting sprayed so much, or?
Well, that's even the next stage. Even the next stage is now that our crops are covered in pesticide because they're pest resistant. So the wheat's covered in pesticide because it's pest resistant. But now you're developing super weeds that are pest resistant and destroying the crops.
I think that could be solved by not using one pesticide only, but companies, they want to make one GMO that's resistant to one pesticide and then just use overkill with that pesticide, and that can be bad. But I also think that there is a need for pest-resistant crops, because like you couldn't grow some crops in some areas without that pest resistance gene, So it's like it's really good and bad, and it really depends like on the specific situation and on the specific location where they're growing the crops. At least for me.
And with that, to go along with that, they do use different pesticides.
Yeah.
Per the area, they do use different pesticides. So, and that's the other thing, is you have cross-contamination. You can have one GMO in Texas, and then that can be cross-contaminated because seeds blow. It happens.
Yeah.
That's just nature. Seeds blow from one place to another, and that's actually another point that Monsanto had an issue with, because you said you had an issue with them. One of their plants went rogue in Oregon, and that cut off actually the Southeast Asia, heard about that and cut off everything to the Pacific Northwest and said, we're not taking your wheat. So there's another issue that also comes.
Yeah, there's lots of international issues. Lots of those.
So, thank you for talking with us today. My name is Ryan.
I mean, I'm personally I'm a vegetarian. I'm into all that healthy eating and healthy lifestyle, and there's so many horrible things they do to the food, even to add shelf life and do things like that, which that's kind of understandable. But for them to make a profit because it's cheaper for them to add this, almost like poison into our food.
It's a chemical,
is really needs to be regulated.
Okay. Well, on the upside of that, because all those things are horrible, they really are sometimes. But on the upside of that, California is in a drought right now. So one of the things they do use genetically modified foods is they'll take like a strawberry crop per se, and they'll genetically modify it so it's drought resistant, which means that it has more needs less water almost. So now, would that be something you'd be interested in within a genetically modified food, or would it still concern you?
It would still concern me. I mean, as far as I know so far, and I'm not too knowledgeable, like I don't know all the specifics or anything, but as far as I've heard, I don't think they've found anything wrong with eating genetically modified food for your health. But I personally feel like it's not good, and some effects are definitely going to come out of it, even if it's just obesity and things like that. And obviously drought resistant strawberries and stuff like that, that's important because we have such a large population now. But I think maybe we can do more testing on genetically modified foods, like maybe if that works out or not, how it affects people, because we just don't know yet, and I don't find that safe for people to be eating that kind of stuff.
That's totally understandable. One of the other things they'll use it for that would more interest you is it's pest resistant. They'll make pest resistant genetically modified food so they can dump a whole vat of pesticides over the crop and kill only the weeds, but the plants are still good.
Again, it depends on how it affects the food. I mean, we don't, I don't know about what studies have been done again, but, it depends on what kind of effects that's going to have on the people. I mean, I feel like the people's health has to come first, and they have to maybe figure other methods out. I don't know what other methods there would be, but it's just a very difficult